I've noticed that a lot of the books I've read recently revolve around writers and especially writers' retreats. And today I'll be talking about four recent reads. Most of them are thrillers. One is kind of a feel good story. I'll talk about the plots, what I liked or didn't like, and they're all spoiler free, so no worries. So, first up, my favorite of the four is called 30 Days of Darkness. So, this is a really funny crime thriller set in Iceland. It's about this snobby Danish author who only writes like really highbrow literary stories. And she kind of gets herself into this mess where she's at like a book fair and she's listening to this crime author give a speech, and she's like, "Oh, you're so full of crap, like your books are so bad, anyone can write a crime novel in like a month." And he's like, "Oh yeah, well, like go ahead, like write a crime novel." And the entire fair is watching her say this, and so she kind of has to accept. And she hasn't published anything in years, so the pressure is on, and her agent says, "Oh, I have a house in a remote part of Iceland, so why don't you go there and write your book?" So she goes to this awesome town in Iceland. It's full of kind of strange people. They're all really fun characters. I'm so into the atmosphere there. It makes me want to go to Iceland, but I will have to wait until all those volcanoes stop erupting over there, if you've seen that in the news. So, anyway, when she's writing her book, looking for inspiration, someone actually ends up dying. And so you can kind of guess what happens. She starts using this crime to inspire her book. And yeah, it's really, really good. I love this story. Totally going to check out other works by this author. Also, there are a lot of queer characters who kind of thicken the plot in the story. So happy Pride Month. And yeah, that's my first recommendation. So, my next writer's retreat recommendation is The Villa by Rachel Hawkins. So, in general, I will read anything that she comes out with because I loved Reckless Girls and The Wife Upstairs. So, I jumped on this book when I saw it was set in Italy because I love destination thrillers. That's really my favorite thing to read, probably. And so this book is kind of a frenemy, slow burn thriller set in Umbria, Italy. And it's about these former best friends who are both writers, and they decide to reconnect and spend the summer in Italy working on their books. But the same villa happens to be where a lot of these gruesome events revolving around these artists and musicians happen in the 1970s. So we have a mysterious murder that happened there. Also, the girlfriend of the guy that was murdered wrote this like awesome horror novel, and her sister wrote this famous album that's kind of supposed to be like inspired by Fleetwood Mac. I think it's supposed to be like the equivalent of Rumors. So, anyway, the story is told a story within a story. So, we have the modern friends that are working on their books, and they're kind of like rivaling against each other. And then our protagonist is also reading the horror novel that was written in the villa in the 70s, and the mystery starts to kind of unfold as she finds some more stuff out. And I won't say any more, but this book really heats up in the end, and I was really into it. Makes me want to go to Umbria and just maybe move to Italy. Our next recommendation is a writer's retreat nightmare story called The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz. This is a story about a young author who dreams of being published, and she gets invited to join a writer's retreat hosted by her favorite feminist horror author. But it turns out that her former best friend and current rival also got invited. And when they get there, they find out that they have to write a book in 1 month. And the best book is going to get a 7-figure publishing deal. But things start to go awry when one of the riders ends up going missing, and everything just kind of turns on its head. It's full of twists. It's really exciting. All the characters are so dramatic. Like, it kind of reminds me of like if queer reality TV met like a suspenseful kind of horror. That's kind of the vibe that we have. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book, even though the twist, there's like one kind of big twist that happens that changes the course of the book. Uh, it's a little bit far fetched, but it's really fun, and you'll definitely want to see how it ends. Last but not least, Main Character Energy by Jamie Varon. This is kind of a self-helpy romance story set in the south of France. It's not usually my kind of story, but I still enjoyed it because I also dream of moving to the south of France one day. So this story follows Poppy, who dreams of being a mystery writer, but right now she has like a job she hates at the equivalent of like BuzzFeed. And she has this super fun, childless aunt that lives in the south of France that ends up passing away and leaving everything to Poppy. But there is a catch. Poppy has to write a novel in 6 months. And if she can do that, she'll inherit the villa, and she'll also inherit the writer's retreat that takes place there every year. And so Poppy has to work around her writer's block that she's had for a long time, and she has to work through a lot of self doubt. There's family drama. There is a romantic interest at the writer's retreat. And I did enjoy this story. I absolutely love the descriptions of the south of France and this villa. And I imagined myself there writing a novel. But I did sometimes get a little annoyed by how the protagonist would kind of complain all the time. She is like a plus size woman, and she kind of blames everything on her weight. Like, she can't write because she feels bad about herself. And this just kind of annoyed me just a little bit, but I still really like the book. I will say that I saw every twist coming, but maybe I'm just really good at, finding the breadcrumbs. But that's probably why I put this book last in the list. But hey, I still enjoyed it. If you are going to the south of France and you want something atmospheric to read, definitely recommend it. And that's all for our list of writers' retreat stories. Stick around for more book recommendations in the future. And thanks. See you next time.